Brothers and sisters, we need to be bold for Jesus. We cannot be undercover Christians or closet Christians. We can't shrink back or fall back and kind of separate our beliefs and our faith and our Christianity from like our work lives and stuff like that. Matthew 10, chapter 10, verses 32 and 33 says, "Everyone who acknowledges me publicly here on earth, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But everyone who denies me here on earth, I will also deny before my Father in heaven." You know, I think a lot of us, we're all guilty of feeling hesitation and holding back in places like the workplace or anywhere, not just the workplace, but anywhere we go. I think we're all guilty at times of feeling this hesitation. And obviously, that's coming from the enemy. He wants us to be undercover Christians, right? And as you can see, I'm wearing a Jesus beanie on my head. I'll give you a close up of that. And I'm clearly at work. I've been doing a lot of these short clips, short videos here on my lunchtime. I'm at work, and this is the beanie that I chose to wear today. And within 5 minutes of walking, it's not the first time that I've worn it to work, but within every time I wear this beanie, my Jesus beanie, I always get positive feedback. I always get positive comments. It always gets noticed, and nobody should have a problem with it. But I think a lot of Christians would hesitate to wear this in the workplace. And, we're all guilty of it at some point in our life and others, right? But doing simple things like this creates opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do this. I'm not saying go buy yourself a Jesus beanie and wear it to work. No, everybody's different. Everybody has, their preference and how they carry themselves and present themselves as Christians out and about and in the workplace and all over the place, right? But this is me. This is me. This is what I do. Just yesterday, I wore my other beanie that says faith across it, and it has a cross. And I was driving through the warehouse on my forklift, and I got stopped by a supervisor. And he goes, "Hey, Sam, I noticed your beanie." And I go, "Yeah?" And he goes, "I was just talking to my wife the other day or recently. I haven't gone to church in a long time, but I've been telling my wife that I've been missing going to church." And that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. By simply wearing that beanie yesterday that said faith and had a cross on it, it opened up a door for me to have a small little conversation with a supervisor about how he'd been feeling like going back to church lately. You see, God is pulling on people. God is tugging on the hearts of people. And you would be surprised just how many people are not just willing, but eager to talk about Jesus, to talk about God, to talk about church, to talk about the Bible. Not just willing, but eager. You'd be surprised. I'm 42 years old. I've been working since I was 16. My first job was McDonald's. All throughout my whole life, I have always had opportunities come without much effort at all to talk about Jesus, to talk about God. And by no means am I a perfect, Christian, a perfect representation or anything like that. We're all human, and we're all, incredibly flawed. But we as Christians need to be bold. Proverbs 28:1 says, "Be bold as a lion," right? Proverbs 28 verse 1. So we as Christians, we need to be bold. We need to look for ways to preach the gospel without preaching the gospel in the traditional sense. Obviously, I'm not going to walk into work, pull out, my Bible and start saying stuff like, "Thus saith the Lord." I'm not going to start doing that, right? But we can preach the gospel without preaching the gospel in the traditional sense of how we view preaching the gospel. You can preach the gospel just by the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, and of course by the things you wear. And I'm the kind of person that I will wear things like this I will not hesitate to do stuff that I'm not saying you have to, but there are always ways. When people see you reading the Bible on a break time, on your Bible app on the phone, people will notice, people will ask, and I've had many natural conversations start, all because of just simple, subtle things that I'm doing. So I encourage you, brothers and sisters, to be bold for Jesus. You'd be surprised just how many people are not just willing, but eager to talk about God. God is pulling on the hearts of men and women, and He's pulling a lot of people back. So you'd be surprised just how much opportunity there is out there to share the gospel in your own unique way. God bless. Have a great rest of your day.